Om Shri Sai Ram, Gita Vahini by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba, Chapter 14, Existence, Consciousness and Bliss, Asti, Bhati, Priyam. Nahi Jnanena Sadarsham means there is nothing to equal jnana or knowledge. And what is jnana? That which makes you cross the sea of samsara and confers on you Parama Prapti, or the highest attainment or liberation. Of course, jnana is of two kinds: Vishya Jnanam, that is the knowledge of the world, and Abheda Jnanam, non-dual knowledge. The first type, Vishya Jnanam, is knowledge of the world. The second is the experiential knowledge of the Brahmatma. Knowing as Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, is realizing the existing union with the Brahman, and which is called Abheda Jnanam. This Abheda Jnanam is described as Anadi, or beginningless, existing from eternity. It destroys the fear of samsara, instills nirbhaya or fearlessness in man, and helps him to realize Brahma Prapti, that is realizing one's true self as Brahma or pure consciousness. It is the one which witnesses the activities of even the buddhi. So, it is called Samyak Jnanam, proper or clear understanding. There are two paths by which man can earn this Abheda Jnanam: Bahiranga Sadhana, the outer disciplines or practices, and Antaranga Sadhana, the inner disciplines or practices. Bahiranga Sadhana is Nishkama Karma, that is engaging in activity without attachment towards the result of those activities, as purely dedicated to the Lord. Antaranga Sadhana is dhyana, meditation and samadhi, complete absorption in Godhead. Such a state is also called Atma Samyama, self-restraint or self-command. In Vedantic terminology, this is named as Nididhyasana, or contemplation or meditation, Shravana, listening, and Manana, constant reflection on the things listened to. These two steps are the basis of this Nididhyasana. Dhyana has to be accomplished through these Shravana and Manana, and no other channel. Without these, Dhyanam is impossible to achieve, and this is what the term Atma Samyama too means. Atma Samyama refers to the strategies or methods required for Mano Nigraham, or control of mind, and what is the aim of man's life: to realize Paramatma, one's true self, as Supreme Self, and attain Mukti or liberation from the false identification of the self with the body. Shrunvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha. Listen, O ye children of immortality. All over the world is the call. The heritage of immortality must be recognized and experienced. It must be won back. The bonds of Nama, or name, and Rupa must be got rid of. They are simply bonds made of dream stuff. They are changeful and temporary. They are not genuine. Real wisdom or jnana consists. The real wisdom or jnana consists in recognizing that the true nature of man is pure bliss, or ananda, bliss that persists from the past. Bliss that persists from the past into the present and will continue in the future also, escaping from grief for a brief period of time, and the attainment of joy and the attainment of joy for a short time, these are not the signs of real liberation or mukti. If you seek this steady, genuine, pure state of ananda or bliss, you must surrender to me, said Lord Krishna. Arjuna, whoever does sadhana or spiritual practice, after surrendering to me with a view to liberate himself from the grief of Janam Marana, that is decay and death, will know all that is to be known of Brahman, Sampurna Adhyatmikta, the individual self or soul, and Karma, principle of action. I am the Adhibhutam, the manifest universe, Adhidevam, one who presides over celestial gods, and Adhigyanam, presiding deity of all sacrifices. And if I am thus worshipped, the worshipper will develop samahita chitta vritti, or equanimity and full control of the vagaries of the mind. Besides, such a person will dwell on me without forgetting me, even in his last moments. For that reason, he will reach me too, that is to say, he becomes one with me. Arjuna, everyone wishes to avoid the grief of decay and death. It is human nature to wish so, but of what avail is mere wish? One's conduct and behavior should be in accordance with that objective. If one has sincere yearning, and if he places full trust and faithfully surrenders to the Lord, the fog of grief will be dispersed by the rays of His grace. If, on the other hand, one places his trust on grief-ridden objects of this world, the consequent grief will never end, nor can they be ended by any other than the Lord, without submitting to the Mayapati or the master of Maya, delusion, but submitting to the Maya Padarthams, or the objects of this delusional world. How can the dukkham or grief, and how can you win the anandam or bliss? If anandam is not won and dukkham avoided, how can mukti, liberation, be achieved? Krishna asked. Then Arjuna intervened. Krishna, he said, cannot such men, those experiencing grief, attain you? You say that grief must be conquered first before one can attain you. Well, what is the origin of that grief? How is it to be tackled? How does it arise? How can one try to overcome it without knowing its origin and cause of development? O Lord, please tell me how this grief arises. Listen, Arjuna, Krishna condescended to reply. The source of all types of dukkham or grief is ignorance, agyanam. You might ask me now, what is the source of this agyanam? I shall tell you. Agyanam is deha atma bhranti, the false identification with the body consciousness. This can be removed only by the acquisition of jnanam or self-knowledge. To remove darkness, light is what is needed. You cannot frighten it away, nor can you make it yield by prayer or petition or protest. Unless light is on, darkness will not disappear. Whosoever you may try, so too to remove ajnanam, jnanam is what is needed. Ajnanam will not disappear by merely wishing for disappearance to happen. Once you understand the nature and ramifications of this trait, this ajnanam, the truth will be laid bare and ajnanam will vanish. When ajnanam goes, dukkham, grief too goes. So surrender yourself to me, the path to know grief, and earn jnana jyoti, or light of true knowledge, and experience shashvata anandam, or eternal bliss, said Krishna. Immediately Arjuna interjected and prayed, Krishna, you were saying till now of certain means by which we can reach you, but how can I ever grasp its meaning if you talk 19 to the dozen? You did not even confer as a preliminary a little power to understand things quickly. Please, therefore, make me happy by describing this point in greater detail so that I might follow you better and attain you. Then Krishna replied, my dear brother-in-law, listen, my tattvam or reality or truth can be understood once you are clear about the meaning of Brahman, Adhyatam, the individual soul, Karma, principle of action, Adhibhutam, the manifest universe, Adhidevam, one who presides over celestial gods, and Adi Yajnam, presiding deity of all sacrifices. And let me tell you this also, whoever understands my Tattvam attains me. Then, O Lord, tell me about the first of these, Brahman, explained Arjuna. Arjuna, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Brahman is referred to as the Aksharam, which is Param or supreme. Aksharam means indestructible. Brahman means big, vast, etc. How vast, you may ask? Vaster than whatever you call vast. That is the answer. The word Aksharam has another meaning also. It means Sarva Vyapakam, all-pervading, omnipresent, eminent, everywhere. Brahman is not mere Aksharam, as you must have noticed. It is Aksharam, which is Param. What does that mean? It is the type of Aksharam which is beyond the reach of Desha Kala, Jnana Mulu, space, time and indirect knowledge or any other methods, and which never declines or ends by any means. The goal of humanity is to attain that eternal Brahman. Though they are two separate words, Aksharam and Brahman, they are basically one and the same. They indicate the Saguna with qualities or attributes and the Nirguna without qualities or attributes, aspects of the same Brahman. Aksharam means also a letter, the Pranava Om, which is the symbol of Brahman. That is why it is called Akshara Parabrahma Yoga, the eternal, changeless, supreme yoga. Brahman has two adjectives, Paramam and Aksharam. Aksharam means the Pranava as well as Maya. Maya too is an essential property of Pranava. These two are Savishesha, that is, possess specific qualities, attributes or properties. He who understands Brahman attains me. Now listen to the second point. It is Brahman that dwells in every body and in every being in the form of Nenu, I. In fact, everybody hangs around this essential basis called I. In the body, each part and organ performs one chief task. Each indriya or sense contacts and informs about one particular set of impressions from the outer world. But though related to the senses, there is an I shining in the body which is unattached and behind all of them. If that relationship between I and all the angas, limbs or organs, and all the indriyas or senses is broken, then they all become sheer jada or inert material. When the I power flows through the senses, they are able to carry on their allotted tasks. That power is called Adhyatmam. It cannot be known without great effort. When you do vichara or self-inquiry through the faculty of vivekam or discrimination, you will know it to some extent. Brahman, supreme self-reality, is the Tat. That principle, Adhyatmam, individual self, is the Tvam. Thou, principle, to make the matter clearer to you, take these two as Swarupa and Swabhava, that is essential nature, which is universal, and innate nature of the individual. Swarupa and Swabhava are not distinct, they are inseparable, isn't it? Brahman is the Swarupa, Adhyatam is the Swabhava, said Krishna. Let us dwell on this matter a little. The Shastras or the scriptures describe Brahman as Sat, Chit, Ananda. Is it not? This is a way of denoting it in Vedantic vocabulary. What do they mean in Sanskrit language? There it is described as Asti, Bhati, Priyam. Are both the same? Or do they mean differently? Thorough investigation reveals that they are one and the same principle. They are the synonyms of the same fundamental principle. Neither Swabhava nor Padartha of them are different. Sat means absolute existence. The same meaning is conveyed by the word Asti in Sanskrit. Chit means that which is conscious of everything. The same meaning is conveyed to the word Bhati in Sanskrit. Ananda means Sukhapeksha or yearning for unbroken joy. Priyam also means the same in Sanskrit. These three are found in every human being. Why? In every beast and bird. How? Take the first of these, Sat, and it will become clearer. The body is subject to destruction sooner or later. Everyone is aware of this. No one is unaware of this elementary fact. Nevertheless, everyone is apprehensive of death. No one welcomes death or is eager to meet it. Death is inevitable. You have to meet it, even though you do not welcome it or dislike. All that is born has to die. Someday, after slowly meeting with decline, still no one likes to die. What is the reason behind this? Pay attention to this. What is it that does not welcome or dislike death? What is that meets with death? What is it that leaves? The answer is, it is the body that dies. It is the body that falls. What does not die is the Atma or self. Unable to realize this truth, man is superimposing the immortal nature of the self on this mortal body. The Atma has nothing to do with death. It is the body that experiences death. The Atma, which is Nitya, Satya and Nirmala, immutable, eternal and pure, does not die. You are the Atma that does not like to die. You are not the body. That is to say, you are Sat, Swarupam. Your innate nature is Sat, absolute or eternal existence. The Atma is immortal but is superimposed on the Deha or the body. The Atma is the Sat, not the body. You are the Sat, the Atma. You are the Sat, the Atma, the fundamental principle that has no death. It is the Atma that is in every Upadhi or manifesting medium, and so every Deha feels. The Sat Padartha Shakti or the fundamental principle or of absolute existence. This is so clear and unmistakable. Now, take the second, Chit, the source of all knowledge that lets you know everything, that is pure consciousness or pure knowledge. Everyone is eager to know about anything that is apparent to his consciousness. He asks the questions, what is this? How does this happen? The number who actually succeed in knowing may be only a few. Others may have the eagerness only and not only a few. Others may have the eagerness only and not the steady effort needed to persist and win. That makes no difference. The essential fact is the thirst, the urge to know is present in everyone. Take a little boy with you when you go to the market or the bazaar or an exhibition. You will note that the boy does not simply move along seeing the various things on both sides. He will be continuously asking the person who is leading him by the hand, what this is and what is that. It may be something he does not need or something that is beyond his power of understanding. But yet, the stream of questions will not get dry. This is the daily experience of everyone. Just consider the inner significance of this thirst to know. It is the Chitta Shakti, power of pure consciousness, that expresses itself. It is not its nature to leave things alone. It cannot rest until it knows about everything. So, that thirst to know emerges as a stream of questions. The Chitta Shakti is self-luminous, so it has the power of illuminating even inert things. That is why these qualities shine in man and make other things clearer to him. This is enough to make it plain to anyone that man has in him the Chitta Shakti. Now for the third, Anandam. Not only men, even beasts and birds crave for joy and happiness without any prompting or persuasion from others. They make every effort to win it. Not one of them craves for grief or pain. They make every effort to escape from pain and grief and put an end to them soon when they become unavoidable. As for man, no further elaboration is necessary. He seeks unbroken joy at all times and in all acts and activities. At no point, at no time, at no place, at no stage of life does he desire grief. He prays for the joy and happiness of himself and his kindred, whatever worship he offers or whatever bhajans or spiritual singing he shares in, or whatever vratans or vows he fulfills or writes, he performs, or pilgrimages he undertakes, or gifts he donates, or any service activity he engages in. Why say so much? When the body suffers from any illness and the doctor prescribes a medicine to cure it and make him whole, man wants even that medicine to be sweet, soothing and pleasant. What is at the root of this craving for joy or happiness? Man is fundamentally Sukha Swabhavam, happy-natured, and Ananda Swarupam, innately blissful. He is not of the transient nature of the body he occupies. He is not Deham or body, he is the Atma. Happiness is the nature of the Atma. That is why no one is surprised when you are happy. They are not inquisitive about your happiness, for it is something natural to you. Surprise arises only when you observe something that was not there before. What you see naturally on a regular basis does not arouse your curiosity. It comes only when something unnatural happens or is observed. Take this instance. A child is in the cradle. It playfully laughs in bed at either the jingling of the bells hung upon it, or some toy, or perhaps some sensation which is pleasant enough to make it bloom into a broad smile. No one is surprised or worried at all this. No one loses his peace of mind as a result of this. Now, let the child that was playing and laughing start shrieking and weeping. Everyone within earshot will run towards the cradle and frantically search the bed and bedclothes to discover the causes of all his commotion. This is the experience of all who have something to do with children. No one was worried to find out the reason why the child was happy, but all sought for the cause when it wept. Why? Because Ananda or joy is its nature. Grief is unnatural against its inner composition. This is not the entire point. There is something more. Let us take another example from experience. When some friend or kinsman of yours is happy and affluent, no one takes the trouble to inquire from him, why is he so happy? But when grief strikes him, and he's unhappy, you start harrying him with questions regarding his welfare. This is the common experience of all, isn't it? What is the reason for this? From the above example, it is clear that happiness is natural and grief is unnatural. But to which entity? Happiness is natural to the Atma and not to Deham. Happiness is the nature of the Atma, which everyone truly is. That is why one is craving for constant happiness. Anandam. The above three, Sat, Chit and Ananda, we see in every Jivi or living being as the very core of its very existence, as their reality itself. So, it is the Lord who is the Sat, Chit, Ananda Swarupam, himself who is assumed the Jiva pose as Atma Swarupam and plays as an individual in that role. It is this inner meaning that Lord Krishna elaborated upon, so that the relationship of the Brahman and the Dhyatmam, that is to say, the identity of both with him as his Swarupam and Swabhavam, could be understood by Arjuna. Then Arjuna prayed that the third subject, karma, may be fully explained to him. Krishna was quite ready to oblige him. He began, Arjuna, the tyaga or renunciation that is necessary for the creation and fostering of bhutas is what is called karma. The movable and the immovable all are bhutas, those that exist. Why? The very act of the very resolution of creation is karma. That is to say, Srishti Sankalpa is the real karma. So, it is the Bhagavad Sankalpam or divine will that forms the stream of karma. My Sankalpam or will is the Adi Bijam or primordial seed, the source which activates everywhere this entire universe and all the movements and agitations and activities in it. And as long as my Sankalpa lasts, the stream of karma will flow along. It can never go dry. All that we do, that is the karmas, form the integral part of this Maha Pravaham or mighty stream of karma. So, Srishti Sankalpa is the karma that is responsible for the Srishti or creation, Sthiti or sustenance, and Laya, dissolution of all bhutas. So, any karma, big or small, if done with Ishvara, Pita, Buddhi or attitude of surrendering to the Lord, becomes Paramatma Swarupam or divine in nature. Jai Sai Ram.
Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om